October World Cup qualifiers are done, so it's time to review, shall we? By the way, when this video is uploaded, I will more than likely be in Japan, on vacation. Don't worry though, for the next few weeks I'll have some videos out, including a video essay in November, so stay tuned. I'm going to be posting though a lot on my Instagram, as I will be going all over the country with my good friend Aldous from the famous F1 YouTube channel, Aldous. So listen, if you want to witness our shenanigans and also see some incredible sights, follow me on Instagram at Macwell. Into OFC, and we are into the second round of Oceania qualifiers with 8 teams remaining. Very simple format once again, 2 groups of 4 teams each. Teams will play each other just once, and the top 2 will advance to the third round. In Group A, we have New Zealand, Tahiti, Vanuatu, and Samoa. New Zealand has 2 World Cup appearances under their belts, with their first being back in 1982. 2010, though, was by far the most memorable. They defeated Bahrain 1-0 at home in the second leg to qualify for the tournament. The Kiwis then drew with Slovakia, reigning champions Italy, and Paraguay. Unfortunately though, it wasn't enough to advance, but New Zealand were the only unbeaten team in the 2010 World Cup. Their all-time top scorer, Chris Wood, played in that tournament. He was 18 at the time. He's now 32. And this should be a pretty easy round for the Kiwis, as they have not lost to an OFC opponent in the last 12 years. Tahiti have never qualified for the World Cup. However, back in 2012, they made history and won their first ever OFC Nations Cup. It was the first time the tournament saw a winner that wasn't New Zealand or Australia. This triumph also meant an appearance in the 2013 Confederations Cup. It didn't really go that well though. Toa Alto's all-time top scorer is Teanui Teho, who has family ties with 3 other Tahiti national team players. Vanuatu has never qualified for the World Cup, but they are well known in the OFC sphere as a team that creates some surprises from time to time. They beat New Zealand in 2004 and prevented the Kiwis from qualifying for World Cup 2002. Then in 2007, Vanuatu beat the Solomon Islands for the first time since 1998. They just recently beat them again in this year's OFC Nations Cup as well. And Vanuatu would actually go on to reach the final of this tournament for the first time in its history. Also, since I don't really get that many opportunities to talk about, a country like Vanuatu, here's some Vietnamese lore about Vanuatu. In Vietnam, Vanuatu is known as Thân Đảo, which means New Island. This is because back in the early 1900s, the French sent over 21,000 indentured workers to the country where they were forced to work in poor conditions. At its peak, Vits made up about 10% of Vanuatu during the colonial period. Since then though, that number has shrunk drastically. That said though, there are still a good amount of Vietnamese-owned businesses in Vanuatu, including a restaurant called Joe. Group B features the Solomon Islands, Fiji, New Caledonia, and Papua New Guinea. The Solomon Islands have never qualified for the World Cup. They have reached the final of OFC qualifiers multiple times, but each time, they have been torn apart from limb to limb. However, during the last qualification cycle, there was a very exciting prospect who showed glimpses of his talent, Rafael Leai. He gained the attention of some clubs, and in 2023 became the first Solomon Islander to sign for a professional club in Europe. And at just 21 years old, the striker has 11 goals in 20 caps. Currently though, he's gone dry throughout 2024. Fiji have never qualified for the World Cup. The team's best period was between the 90s and early 2000s, where Fiji nearly advanced to the Intercontinental Playoffs and World Cup qualifiers. Unfortunately though, Australia. Fiji's greatest player of all time is a living legend, Roy Krishna. Krishna has scored 42 times in 59 caps, which is the most not only for Fiji, but all of OFC. And he's not shown any signs of stopping either. He was top scorer of the last OFC Nations Cup with 5 goals. New Caledonia, they've never qualified for the World Cup, and their federation logo looks like something out of a spy movie. The country did experience a fair amount of success in the early 2010s though. Gold medal in the Pacific Games, and then they shocked everyone by beating New Zealand in the semis of the 2012 OFC Nations Cup. The man who opened the scoring was Bertrand Kai, who actually won Oceania Footballer of the Year in 2011. It was the first time a New Caledonian had won the award since Christian Karembeu, who helped France win the World Cup in 1998. Papua New Guinea has never qualified for the World Cup, and their federation certainly isn't helping itself. Throughout the 2010s, the Papua New Guinea National Soccer League was being run like a proper circus. Clubs not interested in registering for the new season, teams withdrawing right before the season, during the season, and even during the playoffs. Some would even disband mid-season, citing poor management. And the politics within the federation and the country only made things worse. Now, how do I know literally any of this? Well, for some reason, the Papua New Guinea National Soccer League page on Wikipedia is a lot bigger than I thought it'd be. Throughout this period as well, though, Papua New Guinea managed to reach the finals of the 2016 OFC Nations Cup, a tournament they hosted. Alright, so there was only 2 games played in each group, so, you know, it's not going to be really that exciting. Group A, things start well for New Caledonia, who easily take victory against Papua New Guinea. Fiji get a massive victory against group favorite Solomon Islands, and who else but Roy Krishna to score the only goal. So after a single game, New Caledonia and Fiji are tied with 3 points at the top. Group B, on the other hand, has started pretty straightforward for New Zealand, who cleaned up shop against Tahiti without breaking a sweat. And Vanuatu absolutely demolished Samoa 4-1. So at the end of October, Vanuatu is actually first because of their goal difference, and right behind them is New Zealand. Over to CONMEBOL, where we are most definitely going to be expecting more as we near the halfway point. Before the window, however, Argentina was still first despite a loss because the Colombians drew with Peru. Then you had third place Uruguay just a point behind Los Cafeteros, with Ecuador 4 points below. And then from 5th to 8th is an absolute dogfight between the underwhelming and the overachieving. Brazil has been awful under Dorival Jr. so far, while Venezuela are doing wonders holding on to the last automatic spot. Paraguay sits just a point behind them thanks to their triumph over the Brazilians, and tied with Paraguay is Bolivia, who currently have scored the 3rd most goals in the competition so far. And then there's Chile and Peru having an ass off. And not the good one. October officially kicked off with the match between Bolivia and Colombia. Pretty straightforward victory for the Colombians, I'd say. Unfortunately for them, we're returning to El Alto, baby! But hold your horses, because after denying Colombia a goal-scoring opportunity, the Sea Level Merchants lose a defender. Which, you know, we are so back, CONMEBOL. But also, this meant Bolivia now had a massive disadvantage early on against Colombia, one of the hottest teams in the world right now. Is what I would say if I was a fool. Oh no, Bolivia has to play with 1 less man. I guess you've forgotten that 11 Colombians are currently playing without oxygen. And so right at the hour mark, Miguel Terceros, a wonder boy, a symbolism of a new age, stuns the 2nd place Colombians to win their 3rd straight qualifier. These are Sea Level Merchants no more. Tremble in fear, for we are now facing South America's new overlords, the Altitude Alphas. Ecuador and Paraguay played at the same time, and before the game, Julio Enciso claimed he almost died and fainted on a plane because he hadn't slept or eaten well. Back to the game, however, Gustavo Alfaro's return to Ecuador saw him steal a point away in a 0-0 draw. Another solid performance from Paraguay. Although, I gotta say, I think Ecuador probably should have had a penalty in this game. So, remember last month when Emi Martinez slapped that camera out of his face? Well, that earned him a 2-game suspension, including Argentina's qualifier in Venezuela, where the pitch was just a little wet. Argentina, though, found an early goal through Venezuela's errors in the back. However, outside of that, the waterlogged pitch acted as an equilibrium, which opened the door for Venezuela to equalize in the 65th minute. In the end, the game ended 1-1, with Venezuela stealing yet another crucial point away from a giant. Over in Santiago for Chile vs Brazil, and it only took 2 minutes for 34-year-old Eduardo Vargas to score, which probably triggered every Brazilian to imagine Dorival Jr. in the place of that referee on the 30th of June 2013. Fortunately for Dorival, this is Chile. You could be using the most prehistoric tactics imaginable and still somehow win with players from Botafogo. But I can't really guarantee your own fans will change their minds on certain things. One figure, though, is actually blaming the players more than the coach. The president of Brazil. Lula reportedly recently met with the federation and said they should not call up Brazilians playing in Europe, as he believes those who are abroad are no better than those who are in Brazil. I wonder how that will end up. The qualifiers' top scorer, Darwin Núñez, was back for Uruguay, but it would be Peru's day as they stunned their opponents in the 88th minute to earn their first victory of the cycle. On to the next match day, and just look at these shirts. Oh my god! Against Chile, the classy-looking Colombians would take care of the worst team in the region 4-0. A solid bounce back after the trauma in El Alto. Venezuela continued their impressive run into matchday 10 with an early goal versus Paraguay.
Que iba Venezuela en esa mierda, caballero.
However, in the second half, Paraguay strike back twice through Arnaldo Sanabria and continue their impressive run under the wing of Gustavo Alfaro, who I am fully convinced at this point could save the Argentinian economy. Because since his appointment, Paraguay has earned 8 points in their last 4 games. And after yet another goalless draw, Uruguay in the same amount of games has earned just 3 points. The Altitude Alphas descended upon Buenos Aires, eager to extend their conquest of South America. But waiting for them was an all too familiar nightmare. Lionel Messi. And not only did Bolivia meet their match, they met their longtime tormentor as Messi committed a massacre on live TV and Argentina went on to win 6-0. Finally, to end off October for South America, Brazil finally won a game comfortably versus Peru. And what do you know, 3 of those goals were scored by Brazilians that play in Europe. And so, after 10 games played, Argentina are still your leaders with 22 points. Second is Colombia with 19 points. Yet again, they failed to take advantage of Argentina's mishaps, but are in a very secure spot. Uruguay should be very lucky that these qualifiers have been so chaotic because they are still third. But tied with them on points is Brazil, who despite showing some god-awful football, did still earn 6 of 6 points for the first time since September 2023. To cover the rest of the automatic spots, you have Ecuador and Paraguay tied on 13 points. Ecuador will not be happy having earned just 2 points this window. However, Paraguay will be over the moon after hopping into 6th with 4 points this October. In the playoff spot is the funniest team in the region, the Altitude Alphas, Bolivia. They have managed to score the 4th most goals in the competition and also have conceded more than Chile. Venezuela doesn't need to fire off any flares right now, but after another disappointing window, they've dropped from 6th to 8th. And thanks to their win versus Uruguay, Peru are no longer at rock bottom. That now belongs to their rivals Chile, who haven't earned a point since November 2023. This team was 3rd in FIFA rankings just 9 years ago. Lastly, we have Asia's qualifiers to talk about. To start the window in Group A, Uzbekistan and Iran were tied on points at the top, and they played each other in a pretty underwhelming 0-0 draw. Meanwhile, 3rd place UAE and 4th place North Korea also played to begin October. The Emiratis took the lead in the 66th minute, however North Korea are given a penalty minutes later, and Han Kwang-song is probably going to disappear again after that one. North Korea didn't let off the gas, however, and finally found their equalizer in the 85th minute. So the top 4 stays as it is. Qatar had been off to a terrible start, but finally collected their first win of the window against last place Kyrgyzstan. On the second match day of October, the 2 Central Asian countries proved victorious against their foes, with Kyrgyzstan earning their first victory of the campaign. Then to cap off Group A for the month, Iran absolutely annihilated Qatar 4-1. Now looking at the table, Iran has just barely overtaken Uzbekistan at the top. UAE didn't get much out of this window, but still remain in 3rd, while Qatar's first victory of the campaign sees them back in the thick of it.
I'm in the thick of it.
Over to Group B, it was a 3-way tie between Jordan, South Korea, and Iraq, with Kuwait and Palestine just hanging in there. South Korea was without Son Heung-min this window, however they still managed to knock Jordan off the top, winning 2-0. Oman bounced back from a horrendous September, demolishing Kuwait 4-0 at home. Ayman Hussein continued his incredible goal-scoring form with his 12th of 2024 in a 1-0 victory against Palestine. With Jordan's loss, this saw Iraq take 2nd away with their next game against the South Koreans. And the Taeguk Warriors took the lead near the half, but then it was that man again, Ayman Hussein, with a ridiculous goal to equalize. 14 minutes later, however, Oh Hyun-gyu reclaims the lead with his 2nd goal of the window. And then a late header from Lee Jae-sung seals the deal. Iraq did get one back, but in the end, South Korea would hold on and win 3-2. After looking like Jordan on the Wizards, the national team redeemed themselves at home with a 4-0 pummeling of Oman. Kuwait took an early lead against Palestine through a penalty. 10 minutes later though, Palestine earned themselves a pen and it's level at 1. Then with 10 minutes remaining, a perfect delivery is sent straight to Yusuf Nasser, who reclaims the lead for Kuwait. But then in the 3rd minute of stoppage time, Palestine sends a ball into the box and Zaid Kunbar saves his team from another defeat. So now looking at the table, we have a distinct leader this time in South Korea, who have yet to lose a match so far. Jordan, thanks to goal difference, hold on to 2nd with 7 points, and tied with them in the second chance spot is Iraq. 4th is still really anyone's to grab with Oman holding it, but Kuwait and Palestine are just hanging in there. Finally, there's Group C, which saw Japan effortlessly at the top with Saudi Arabia just behind them in the other automatic qualification spots. Covering the playoff spots were the 2 early shockers, Bahrain and Indonesia. Then there were the underachievers of Australia and China, and these two faced off in the ultimate mid-off, with Australia prevailing 3-1 under their new manager Tony Popovich. A few hours later, Bahrain vs Indonesia commenced. Once more, Asian nations continue to whip out some utter bullshit from absolutely nowhere, and Bahrain take an early lead. Bahrain in fact had most of the possession throughout the first half, and kept trying to score these bangers as if it was an Olympic event. However, right before the end of the half, Indonesia come in with a sneak attack and equalize. Then the 74th minute, Indonesia produce another shock as Rafael Strauch curls it beautifully into the net, and Indonesia now has a 2-1 lead. Bahrain couldn't let that slide though, and in the 9th minute of stoppage time, Mohamed Marhoun scores his 2nd and denies Indonesia a historic victory. They announced 6 minutes of stoppage time for this, by the way. And because of this, it has unleashed a storm that I have not seen since the time Algeria was robbed against Cameroon. You have Indonesian netizens quite literally invading every single comment section relating to football imaginable. Sometimes it's not even football. And I've seen a lot of these comments too, talking about how they were robbed, joking that 90 plus 6 equals 99, and also AFC stands for Arab Football Conspiracy. More extreme cases of this mob mentality, though, have seen Indonesians review bomb random Bahraini businesses. Guys, it is not this f***ing deep. But let's just kind of pause for a second and ask ourselves, was Indonesia actually robbed? No. No, they weren't. Literally, while the board for stoppage time was being shown, there was a free kick that took more than 2 minutes because of Indonesia's time wasting. Like, the foul had happened in the 89th minute, and the free kick whistle didn't actually occur until the 92nd. And then there was another free kick towards the 4th minute of stoppage time, and that took 45 seconds. Then you had like a couple other little dead ball situations here or there that contributed to this, including one that took like 10 seconds for Indonesia to throw the ball. Indonesians, I know you want to claim that Bahrain had the ref in its pockets, or that you had no control in this game, but you did. You knew Bahrain wasn't flying like they were in the first half. You had numerous opportunities on the counter, and floundered every single time. Like, this comic I find so ironic because in the distant background, you can literally see an Indonesian player on the counter. And what I find the funniest is that, like, I know how Indonesians are on social media. And also, football accounts know that as well, you know? They're gonna act dumb, but they know. And I've just seen so many just shamelessly siding with the Indonesian fans, saying that the ref's rigged and everything. Without even just thinking twice, they're just like, oh, engagement, oh, money, I need it all. Indonesians, please, please come to me. I need more Indonesians. Anyways, to cap off the first set of matches, Japan defeated Saudi Arabia 2-0, and it's the first time that Japan has actually ever defeated the Saudis away. Japan didn't have the same successes back home though, as they conceded their first goal in the entire cycle to Australia of all teams. However, they managed to bounce back after Australia had their own mishap. China took advantage of Indonesia's lack of awareness not once, but twice before the half through Zhang Yuni. And that would be enough for China's first victory, which honestly was quite a shocker considering many thought this was Indonesia's chance to earn their first.
I think it's a little bit the same as Bahrain. We play against a team, they waste time a lot.
I know that ain't who I think it is.
Then to end off Group C in October, Saudi Arabia and Bahrain played out a goalless draw. So now looking at the table, Japan continued to dominate with everyone else 5 points or more below them. And Australia, who started this window 5th, leap into 2nd thanks to their win versus China and their courage versus Japan. Tied with them is Saudi Arabia and Bahrain, who are in the second chance spots. And just sticking in there are Indonesia and China with 3 points each. And so that is your World Cup qualifiers October review. November, I'm not gonna lie, it might have a little delay just because I will be in Asia and it's gonna be harder to put that one together while I'm there. So once I get back, I'm gonna pretty much put that together. So I would say that video will come out probably like mid to late December, if I'm honest. But of course, a massive shout out to all our members, including Janos Balas, Chupas, Brazilian Fury, Respect the Jeff, Othman JN, Habakkuk, Jeremiah Owusu Ajimang, Django, Sexy Asian Diddler, Adazir Makalankam, Alex Rod, Ulta, Miguel Munoz, Return Fire, Rory Burns, Slider Kit, Sniffers, Takuoka Fan, The Cypriot 35, Not Windows 95 Man, Kentra Agatra, Big Boris the Baby Eater II, Kerbo, Unkwell, St. Terrence, Sylvia Citrus, Ryan Jans, Wise Orange, Rashford Enthusiast, Cocosaurus Rex, LeJames Braun, Samu, Just MRC, Cheesebait, Cooper Rory, The Somali Pirate, Claymore Roomba, Winder Gel, M4 Does Stuff, Finn Likes Rugby More, Davox, The Portergeiser, TPSK25, Polar Protos, Van Fan, Lucian Van Croix, Ethan Bennett Loves Kavicha, Gazegos Brescia Kivix, Monotango Faye, Adrian, A Ghostly Owl, Coney Wolves, Mud to 9, Nava, Sketchy Card, KM89, Apollo, Chris Visconti, Dominic Griffin, Kyler Krebs, Mohammed Altanib, Niche, Patrick Barley, Rashford God 5, Raspberry L, subscribe to Tendington, and Unbroken Persona. If you'd like to become a member, there's a link in the description below and up in the annotations. You can follow my Twitter if you want, follow my Instagram. Like I said before, I will be in Japan, so, you know, if you want to follow that, follow the Instagram. And also, be sure to follow my Twitch because I will be doing a charity stream in late December. But until then, I'll see you guys.